My name is Madison, and at 32 years old, I thought I knew everything about family loyalty. That was before my sister's text message arrived on a Tuesday morning, crushing 20 years of assumptions about blood bonds. Don't come to Mom's retirement party. She doesn't want you there. Those 12 words unraveled a web of lies that had been carefully constructed since childhood. What followed was not just family drama, but a calculated takedown that would expose decades of manipulation and forever change our family dynamics in ways none of us saw coming. Before we dive into this twisted tale of family betrayal and sweet justice, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you're ready for a story that'll have you questioning everything you thought you knew about family loyalty, hit that like button and subscribe because this journey is about to get intense. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. The text from my sister Brianna arrived while I was having my morning coffee, scrolling through emails before another busy day at my marketing firm. The message was so casual, so matter-of-fact, that I had to read it 3 times before the words actually registered. Mom's retirement party. The party I had been helping plan for months. The party where I was supposed to give the opening speech about her 40-year nursing career. My hands trembled as I immediately called Mom. Straight to voicemail. Then Brianna. Also voicemail. My mind raced through possibilities. Had I done something wrong? Had there been some misunderstanding? Mom and I talked every week, sometimes twice a week. We had lunch dates, shopping trips, movie nights. How could she suddenly not want me at her own retirement celebration? I drove straight to Mom's house, my heart pounding the entire 20-minute drive. Her car was in the driveway, but when I knocked, she answered the door looking genuinely surprised to see me. Madison. What are you doing here, honey? Mom, I got the strangest text from Brianna about the retirement party. She said you don't want me there? The confusion that crossed Mom's face was immediate and authentic. What? That's ridiculous. Of course I want you there. You're giving the speech, remember? That's when the first crack appeared in what I would soon discover was an elaborate facade. Mom invited me in, and we sat at her kitchen table while I showed her Brianna's message. Her face darkened as she read it. I never said that. Why would Brianna think I said that? We called Brianna together, putting her on speaker. Her voice was different when she answered, strained and defensive. Oh, Madison's there? I thought you were working today, Mom. Brianna, what's this about Madison not being welcome at my party? There was a long pause. Mom, you said yesterday that you were stressed about the planning and that maybe it would be easier with fewer people involved. I thought you meant Madison should step back. It was a flimsy excuse, and we all knew it. But Mom, ever the peacekeeper, accepted it with a sigh. Well, there's been a misunderstanding. Madison is absolutely coming to the party. She's family. After we hung up, I stayed at Mom's house for another hour, but something felt wrong. The whole interaction with Brianna had been off. Her explanation didn't make sense, and the more I thought about it, the more questions arose. Why would she interpret Mom's stress as me needing to be excluded? Why hadn't she called to clarify before sending such a definitive text? That evening, I decided to do something I had never done before. I logged into the family phone account that Brianna, Mom, and I shared to check for better deals on our plan. What I found there changed everything. Pages and pages of text messages between Brianna and Mom that painted a completely different picture of our family dynamic. Messages where Brianna consistently portrayed me as demanding, selfish, and manipulative. Screenshots of conversations I had never had, with timestamps showing they were sent while I was provably elsewhere. Fabricated stories about me making unreasonable demands, complaining about family gatherings, and even claiming I had said terrible things about Mom's career. The most devastating discovery was a thread from 3 weeks ago where Brianna had convinced Mom that I was only being nice lately because I wanted her to co-sign a loan for a new car. I drive a 3-year-old sedan that I own outright. I have never asked Mom for financial help as an adult. but there it was, in black and white. Brianna telling Mom that I had called her pathetic for working so hard for so little money. That I had said her retirement party was embarrassing because it wasn't at a fancy venue. None of these conversations had ever happened, but the messages made them seem real, complete with fake emotional reactions from Brianna about how hurt she was to hear me talk about Mom that way. I sat in my car outside Mom's house for 2 hours, scrolling through months of these fabricated conversations. A systematic campaign to poison Mom against me, creating a false narrative where I was the ungrateful daughter and Brianna was the devoted protector. The retirement party text wasn't an isolated incident. It was the culmination of a long-term strategy to push me out of the family. The most chilling part was how sophisticated it was. Brianna had created fake screenshots by editing real conversations, changing timestamps to create false alibis, and even setting up scenarios where she would bring up topics in person that would seem to confirm her fake text conversations. She had been gaslighting both Mom and me for months, maybe longer. I started remembering other incidents. Times when Mom seemed distant or disappointed with me for reasons I could not understand. Family gatherings where there seemed to be an undercurrent of tension I could not identify. Conversations that felt like they were referencing things that had never happened. All of it started making sense now. The betrayal cut deeper than any romantic relationship ending ever had. This was not just lying. This was a systematic dismantling of my relationship with my mother, orchestrated by someone who shared my DNA and had grown up in the same house. Someone who knew exactly how to hurt me most effectively because she had watched me navigate every childhood trauma and teenage heartbreak. But as I sat there in the darkness, staring at the evidence of her deception, something shifted inside me. The hurt began to crystallize into something else. Something colder and more focused. Brianna had been playing a long game, thinking she was clever enough to manipulate both Mom and me indefinitely. She had no idea that I was about to start playing a game of my own. And unlike her, I would not need to lie, manipulate, or create false evidence. The truth, when properly revealed, would be devastating enough. I took screenshots of everything, backing them up to multiple cloud accounts. Then I began to plan. This was not going to be about emotional confrontations or dramatic scenes. This was going to be about careful documentation, strategic timing, and ensuring that when the truth came out, it would be undeniable and complete. Brianna wanted to play family politics. She was about to learn that she had picked the wrong opponent. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those fabricated text conversations playing like a nightmare highlight reel. But when morning came, I woke up with a clarity I had never experienced before. The hurt was still there, but it had transformed into something much more useful: cold, strategic determination. I called in sick to work and spent the day developing what I privately called Operation Truth Bomb. First, I needed to understand the full scope of Brianna's manipulation. The phone records had shown me the text messages, but I suspected this went deeper. I started by examining my own relationship with Mom over the past year. I pulled up my calendar, my photos, my bank statements, anything that could provide concrete evidence of my actual interactions with family. What I found was a pattern I had been too close to see. Every time Mom and I had a really good day together, a successful shopping trip, a great dinner, a meaningful conversation, Brianna would mysteriously have some crisis within the next 48 hours that required Mom's immediate attention and emotional support. Mom would end up exhausted and stressed, and our next interaction would feel strained, like she was distracted or disappointed about something she could not quite articulate. I had attributed this to Mom being overwhelmed with work and Brianna's dramatic personality. Now I realized it was orchestrated. Brianna was systematically timing her fake crises to interrupt and overshadow any positive momentum between Mom and me. The pattern was so consistent it was almost algorithmic. Good day with Madison equals manufactured emergency from Brianna equals Mom too drained to enjoy the afterglow of our time together. Rinse and repeat for 12 months. But understanding the pattern was only the first step. I needed evidence that would be undeniable, and I needed a plan that would expose the truth without making me look vindictive or crazy. This required patience and precision. I started by testing a theory. That afternoon, I sent Mom a text about taking her to lunch the following week to celebrate her retirement planning. Within 3 hours, Brianna had texted Mom about a panic attack she was having over her job situation. Mom immediately called to postpone our lunch so she could go support Brianna. The predictability was almost insulting. But it also gave me a roadmap. Over the next week, I began documenting everything in real time. I would make plans with Mom, screenshot our conversation, then wait for Brianna's inevitable crisis intervention. Every single time, like clockwork, Brianna would manufacture some emergency that required Mom's immediate attention. But I was not just collecting evidence of the pattern. I was also quietly reaching out to other family members and friends to understand if this manipulation extended beyond just Mom and me. What I discovered was even more disturbing. Cousin Sarah told me that Brianna had been telling people I was going through a difficult phase and that I had become really selfish and demanding lately. Aunt Linda mentioned that Brianna had warned her I might seem upset at family gatherings because I was jealous of Mom's attention to others. Even Mom's best friend Carol had been primed to expect me to be difficult or attention-seeking. Brianna had been conducting a whisper campaign, preparing everyone in our social circle to interpret my normal behavior through a negative lens. If I seemed quiet at a gathering, it was because I was sulking. If I was energetic and engaged, it was because I was being performative and fake. She had created a no-win situation where anything I did could be spun as evidence of my supposed character flaws. The sophistication of the manipulation was breathtaking. This was not random sibling jealousy. This was a calculated, long-term campaign designed to isolate me from my family and destroy my reputation within our social circle. But Brianna had made one crucial mistake in her strategy. She was so focused on controlling the narrative that she had not considered what would happen if someone started paying attention to her patterns rather than just reacting to her individual stories. I began phase 2 of my plan by becoming the perfect daughter and sister. I started responding to every one of Brianna's manufactured crises with concern and support. When she texted Mom about her panic attacks, I would immediately offer to help. When she complained about work stress, I would send thoughtful messages with resources and encouragement. At first, Brianna seemed pleased that her manipulation was working so effectively. She probably thought she had successfully driven a wedge between Mom and me and that my increased attention to her was evidence of my guilt and desire to compensate. But my kindness had a purpose. Every interaction was documented. Every offer of help was screenshotted. Every supportive message was backed up. I was creating an undeniable record of my actual character and behavior during this time period. Meanwhile, I continued the pattern analysis. I would make plans with Mom, Brianna would create a crisis, and I would respond with understanding and flexibility. But I also started making alternative plans. If our lunch got postponed because of Brianna's emergency, I would send Mom flowers at work with a note saying I understood family comes first and I was proud of her for being such a caring mother. These gestures accomplished 2 things. They demonstrated to Mom that I was not the selfish person Brianna had been portraying, and they created positive interactions that Brianna could not intercept or manipulate. Mom began to notice. She started commenting on how thoughtful I was being, how mature my responses were to family stress, how proud she was of the woman I had become. These comments clearly frustrated Brianna, who had expected her manipulation to drive us apart, not showcase my character. But the most important part of my strategy was patience. I was not going to confront Brianna directly or dump evidence on Mom all at once. Instead, I was going to let Brianna expose herself. I started asking innocent questions. When Brianna mentioned a conversation she claimed to have had with me, I would gently ask for details. "Oh, when did I say that? I don't remember." When she referenced something that had supposedly happened, I would express confusion. "That's weird, I was at work that day. Are you sure that was me?" These questions were not accusatory. They were just clarifying. But they started to make Brianna nervous. Her stories became more elaborate as she tried to cover for inconsistencies. Her fake emotional reactions became more dramatic as she worked harder to maintain credibility. And that's when I knew she was about to make the mistake that would bring her entire house of cards crashing down. The retirement party was still 2 weeks away, but Brianna was escalating. The text message about me not being welcome was just the beginning. She was about to overplay her hand, and when she did, I would be ready to catch every single moment of it. The turning point came exactly 8 days before Mom's retirement party. I had been executing my strategy with military precision, documenting every manipulation while maintaining the facade of the concerned, supportive daughter and sister. But Brianna was getting desperate, and desperate people make sloppy mistakes. It started with what should have been a routine family dinner. Mom had invited both Brianna and me over for Sunday dinner, something we had been doing monthly for years. I arrived on time with flowers and Mom's favorite dessert from the bakery across town. Brianna was already there, and I could immediately sense tension in the air. "Madison, we need to talk about your behavior lately," Brianna announced before I had even set down my purse. I looked at Mom, who seemed genuinely confused. "What behavior?" "You know exactly what I'm talking about. The way you've been monopolizing Mom's time, making everything about yourself, creating drama around the retirement party planning." This was it. This was the moment I had been waiting for. Brianna was finally making her accusations in front of Mom, giving me the opportunity to address them directly instead of fighting shadows and whispered rumors. "I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean. Can you give me a specific example?" "Last Tuesday, when you called Mom crying about how no one appreciates you at work and kept her on the phone for 2 hours when she was trying to get ready for her book club." The lie was so specific, so detailed, that it would have been convincing to anyone who had not been systematically documenting the truth. But I had been ready for this moment. "That's interesting," I said calmly, pulling out my phone. "Last Tuesday, I was in a client presentation from 2 to 5. I have the calendar invite right here, and actually, here's a photo my colleague posted on Instagram of our whole team during the presentation. You can see me in the background." I showed the phone to both Mom and Brianna. Mom looked confused. Brianna's face flushed slightly, but she doubled down. "Well, maybe it was Wednesday then. You're always calling with some crisis. I can check my call log if you'd like." Actually, according to my phone, the last time I called Mom was 6 days ago, and it was a 3-minute conversation to confirm dinner tonight. This was when Mom started to look uncomfortable, but not with me. She was staring at Brianna with an expression I had never seen before. Suspicion. "Brianna, honey, I don't remember Madison calling me crying about work. When exactly do you think this happened?" Brianna realized she was trapped, but instead of backing down, she escalated. "Fine, maybe I have the details wrong, but the point is she's been demanding all your attention lately. She even told Sarah that she thinks she should be your maid of honor if you ever remarry." This was a particularly stupid lie because Mom had been single for 8 years and had never expressed any interest in remarrying. But more importantly, I had never had that conversation with Sarah. "That's a really specific thing to lie about, Brianna," I said quietly. "I'm not lying." "Okay, so if I call Sarah right now and ask her about this conversation, she'll confirm it happened?" The panic in Brianna's eyes was obvious. "Don't drag Sarah into this. She doesn't need to be involved in our family drama." But I was already dialing. Sarah answered on the second ring, and I put her on speaker. "Hey Sarah, quick question. Have we ever talked about Mom potentially remarrying?" "Remarrying? Your mom?" "No, why would we talk about that?" "Thanks, just settling a family discussion. Love you." The silence after I hung up was deafening. Mom was staring at Brianna with growing alarm. "Brianna, why would you say Madison told Sarah something that clearly never happened?" This was when Brianna made her fatal error. Instead of apologizing or admitting to confusion, she went nuclear. "Because you never believe me. You always take her side. She's manipulating you, Mom, and you're too blind to see it." She's been planning to cut me out of the family for months, and this whole sweet daughter act is just her way of making sure she gets everything when you die." The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Mom's face went completely white. "Brianna Marie, what did you just say to me?" I had never heard my mother use that tone of voice. It was ice-cold fury, the kind that comes from profound disappointment rather than simple anger. Mom, I didn't mean. You accused your sister of manipulating me and plotting for my death. At Sunday dinner. In my home. This was the moment when Brianna realized she had crossed a line she could not uncross. But instead of apologizing, she made it worse. "She's been turning you against me. Look at how she's sitting there, acting all innocent. She probably recorded this whole conversation to use against me later." I had not been recording, but Brianna's paranoia was revealing. It suggested she was familiar with the concept of creating false evidence. "Actually, Brianna, that's an interesting point about recording conversations," I said carefully. "Since you're clearly upset and we seem to be having some communication issues as a family, maybe we should start being more careful about documenting what we actually say to each other." "What do you mean?" This was it. This was the opening I had been waiting for. "Well, for example, you mentioned that I've been demanding Mom's attention lately. But I've been keeping track of my interactions with Mom just to make sure I'm not being overwhelming. Would you like to see?" I pulled out a folder I had prepared with printed screenshots of every text conversation, every call log, every calendar appointment between Mom and me over the past 3 months. Everything was timestamped and cross-referenced. This shows every time I've contacted Mom or made plans with her. As you can see, I've actually been less demanding of her time than usual because I know retirement planning is stressful. Mom took the folder and started flipping through it. Her expression changed as she realized what she was looking at. "Madison, why do you have all this?" "Because I started feeling like there was some miscommunication happening in our family, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't being unreasonable or demanding without realizing it." Brianna tried to grab the folder. "This is ridiculous. You can't document every family interaction like we're business associates." "Actually," I said, "it's been really illuminating. For example, I noticed a pattern where every time Mom and I made plans, you would have some kind of crisis within 48 hours that required her immediate attention. Want to see?" I pulled out a second folder, this one showing the correlation between my plans with Mom and Brianna's emergencies. The pattern was so obvious it looked like a spreadsheet. Mom's face went through several emotions as she processed what she was seeing. Confusion, recognition, and then anger. "Brianna, is this true? Have you been timing your problems? That's insane. You're both insane. I can't help when I have panic attacks or work stress. But look at the dates, honey. Every single one of Madison's plans with me was interrupted by one of your crises. Every single one." This was when I decided to reveal the final piece of evidence. The text messages. "Mom, there's something else you need to see. I found some concerning messages in our family phone account." I handed her my phone with screenshots of Brianna's fake conversations. Mom's face went through shock, hurt, and then something I had never seen before. Cold fury. "Brianna, did you create fake conversations to make me think Madison said things she never said?" The game was over, and Brianna knew it. But instead of admitting defeat, she chose to burn everything down. "Fine. Yes. I did it because you've always loved her more than me. She's the perfect daughter and I'm just the problem child, right? Well, now you know what I really think about both of you." She stormed out, slamming the door so hard it rattled the windows. Mom and I sat in silence for several minutes. "How long has she been doing this?" Mom finally asked. "Based on what I found, at least a year. Probably longer." Mom started crying. Not sad tears, but angry tears. "I'm so sorry, Madison. I can't believe I let her manipulate me into doubting you." But I was not interested in apologies. I was interested in making sure this never happened again. Mom, the retirement party is next week. What do you want to do about Brianna? The look in Mom's eyes told me that Brianna had finally pushed too far. The woman who had spent 32 years trying to keep peace between her daughters was done playing referee. We're going to have that party, and it's going to be perfect. And Brianna can decide whether she wants to apologize for a year of lies and manipulation, or whether she wants to keep digging herself deeper. Justice was coming, and it was going to be served at a retirement party that Brianna would never forget. The week leading up to Mom's retirement party was a masterclass in strategic planning. After Brianna's explosive exit from Sunday dinner, she had gone completely silent. No calls, no texts, no manufactured crises. The silence was almost more unsettling than her constant manipulation had been. Mom and I met 3 times that week to finalize party details, but more importantly, to process the full extent of Brianna's deception. Each conversation revealed new layers of manipulation we had both missed. Mom admitted that she had been feeling confused and emotionally exhausted for months, never understanding why she felt constantly torn between her daughters. I kept thinking I was being a bad mother, Mom confessed over coffee on Wednesday. Like I could not figure out how to make both my daughters happy at the same time. That was exactly what she wanted you to think. Divide and conquer. We decided that the retirement party would proceed exactly as planned. If Brianna chose to attend, she would be welcome, but there would be no special accommodations made for her comfort. No walking on eggshells, no avoiding topics that might upset her, no managing her emotions for her. The party was scheduled for Saturday evening at the community center. 43 people had RSVP'd, including family members, Mom's colleagues, and friends from her book club. I had prepared my speech about Mom's nursing career, focusing on her dedication, compassion, and the countless lives she had touched over 4 decades. Saturday arrived with perfect weather. I arrived early to help set up decorations and coordinate with the caterer. Mom looked radiant in the navy blue dress we had picked out together, her silver hair styled professionally for the occasion. She seemed lighter somehow, as if exposing Brianna's manipulation had lifted a weight she had not realized she was carrying. Guests began arriving at 6 o'clock. The atmosphere was warm and celebratory, filled with laughter and stories about Mom's legendary patience with difficult patients and her ability to train new nurses with kindness rather than intimidation. Brianna arrived at 6:45, walking in alone with a forced smile that did not reach her eyes. She had dressed carefully, wearing a subdued black dress that seemed calculated to suggest mourning or victimhood. Several people greeted her warmly, unaware of the recent family drama. I watched her work the room, noting how she positioned herself. She avoided eye contact with both Mom and me, instead focusing on relatives and family friends who did not know about the confrontation. Within minutes, I could see her beginning to plant seeds. "Oh, you know how family dynamics can be challenging," I heard her tell Aunt Linda. "Some people just have different communication styles." To Cousin Sarah, "I'm just glad Mom is happy tonight. That's what really matters." To Mom's friend Carol, "Madison and I have had some misunderstandings lately, but I'm hoping we can work things out for Mom's sake." The phrasing was masterful. She was simultaneously playing victim and taking the high road, making herself seem like the mature one trying to preserve family harmony. Anyone who did not know the full story would see her as the bigger person. But I was ready. During the cocktail hour, I made sure to circulate and connect with everyone Brianna had spoken to. Not to contradict her directly, but to demonstrate through my own behavior that her subtle implications about my character were false. I was warm, engaging, and genuinely interested in everyone's stories about Mom. At 7:30, it was time for speeches. Mom's supervisor spoke first, sharing amusing anecdotes about Mom's legendary organizational skills. Her best friend Carol talked about their friendship spanning 3 decades. Then it was my turn. I had planned my speech carefully. The first half was exactly what I had originally written, a heartfelt tribute to Mom's career, her values, and her impact on everyone around her. The audience was engaged, laughing at funny stories and nodding in recognition of Mom's character. But then I shifted into territory Brianna had not anticipated. One of the things I admire most about my mother is her ability to see the best in people, sometimes even when they have not earned it. She taught me that family means supporting each other through difficult times, being honest even when the truth is uncomfortable, and taking responsibility for our mistakes. I made eye contact with Brianna, who had gone very still. Mom showed me that real love means having difficult conversations when someone you care about is making destructive choices. It means not enabling harmful behavior just to keep peace. And it means that forgiveness is possible, but it requires genuine accountability. The audience assumed I was speaking generally about life lessons. But Brianna knew exactly what I was saying, and her face was flushing red. So tonight, as we celebrate Mom's retirement, I want to thank her not just for her professional achievements, but for modeling integrity, authenticity, and the courage to face hard truths. These are the values that will guide our family forward. The applause was enthusiastic. Mom was crying happy tears. But Brianna looked like she was about to explode. As people resumed mingling after the speeches, Brianna cornered me near the dessert table. "That was a lovely passive-aggressive speech, Madison. Really mature." "I have no idea what you mean." "I was talking about Mom's values." "Right. And I suppose it's just a coincidence that you emphasized accountability and hard truths while staring directly at me?" This was the moment I had been waiting for. Brianna was about to lose control in public, surrounded by family and friends. "Brianna, if my speech about honesty and taking responsibility made you uncomfortable, maybe you should think about why that is. You think you're so smart, don't you? Setting up your little documentation project, playing victim, turning Mom against me." Her voice was getting louder. People nearby were starting to notice. "I think you should lower your voice. This is Mom's party. Don't tell me what to do. You've been manipulating this whole situation from the beginning." Now we definitely had an audience. Mom appeared at my elbow, her face stern. "Brianna, that's enough. If you want to have a family discussion, we can do that privately later." "Oh, perfect. Take her side again. Just like you always do." The room had gone quiet. 43 people were now watching Brianna have a complete meltdown at her mother's retirement party. "You know what? I'm done pretending everything is fine. Madison has been plotting against me for months, documenting every conversation, building a case to make me look bad." "Brianna," I said quietly, "you're embarrassing yourself." "I'm embarrassing myself? You're the one who brought folders full of evidence to a family dinner like some kind of prosecutor." And there it was. In front of everyone who mattered to our family, Brianna had just admitted that there had been evidence. Evidence of what, exactly? The room was full of confused faces trying to piece together what they were witnessing. Mom's face was steel. "Brianna, I think you should leave." "Fine. But don't expect me to come crawling back when you realize what she really is." Brianna stormed out for the second time in a week, leaving behind a room full of shocked guests and a mother whose patience had finally reached its limit. The party continued, but the energy had shifted. People were supportive and kind, but the drama had cast a shadow over what should have been a perfect celebration. That night, I realized that winning this battle had come at a cost I had not fully anticipated. Justice was being served, but it was messier and more painful than I had imagined. The morning after the retirement party, my phone started buzzing at 7 a.m. Text messages, missed calls, voicemails from family members who had witnessed Brianna's meltdown and wanted to understand what they had seen. The consensus was clear: everyone was confused, concerned, and looking for explanations. Mom called first, her voice tired but resolute. "I've been awake since 5 thinking about last night. I need you to know that I'm not second-guessing what happened." Brianna crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. "How are you feeling about everything?" "Honestly? Relieved. I've been walking on eggshells for so long, trying to manage everyone's emotions, that I forgot what it felt like to just tell the truth. But the relief was complicated by grief. Mom was mourning the daughter she thought she knew, processing the reality that one of her children had been systematically manipulating her for months, possibly years. The betrayal was profound, and healing was going to take time. Aunt Linda called next, her voice hesitant. "Madison, honey, I'm not sure what happened last night, but Brianna seemed really upset. She called me this morning crying, saying you've been building a case against her?" This was exactly what I had expected. Brianna's post-party damage control campaign was already in motion. She was calling family members and friends, spinning the narrative to make herself the victim of my calculated attack. I made a decision in that moment. Instead of letting Brianna control the story through whispered phone calls and private conversations, I was going to tell the truth openly. "Aunt Linda, can I ask you something? Has Brianna ever told you things about me that seemed out of character? Or mentioned conversations between us that you thought seemed strange?" There was a long pause. "Well, now that you mention it, she did say some things recently that surprised me. About you being demanding with your mother, or making comments that just didn't sound like you. What if I told you that those conversations never happened? What if I could prove they never happened?" I spent the next hour walking Aunt Linda through the evidence. The fake text messages, the manufactured crises, the systematic pattern of manipulation. By the end of the call, she was silent for several minutes. "Oh my God, Madison. She's been lying to all of us." "I think so, yes. Why would she do something like that?" It was the question I had been asking myself for weeks. Why would someone systematically destroy relationships within their own family? What could possibly be worth that level of deception and manipulation? The answer came in pieces over the following days, as family members began sharing their own experiences with Brianna's storytelling. Cousin Sarah revealed that Brianna had been telling her that Mom was considering changing her will because she was disappointed in my life choices. Uncle Robert mentioned that Brianna had suggested I was struggling financially and might ask family members for loans. Each revelation painted a clearer picture. Brianna had not just been trying to damage my relationship with Mom. She had been positioning herself as the reliable daughter, the family protector, the one who could be trusted with important information and decisions. She was setting herself up to be the primary beneficiary not just of Mom's estate, but of her emotional investment and family authority. It was not just sibling rivalry. It was a calculated campaign to become the family matriarch by elimination. But the plan had a fatal flaw. It required Mom to remain unaware of the manipulation indefinitely. And Brianna had underestimated both Mom's intelligence and my willingness to fight back. By Wednesday, the family phone tree was buzzing with revelations. People were comparing notes about Brianna's stories, realizing how many inconsistencies and impossibilities they had overlooked. The manufactured emergencies, the convenient timing of her crises, the way she always seemed to know about family plans before they were finalized. Mom's friend Carol called me Thursday morning with a bombshell. "Madison, I need to tell you something about the retirement party planning. Brianna called me 3 weeks ago asking if I thought your mother really wanted you involved in the planning, or if she was just being polite because family." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that was ridiculous, that you and your mother have always been close. But now I'm wondering if she was testing the waters, seeing if she could get people to question your role in the family." The manipulation had been even more extensive than I had realized. Brianna had been conducting market research on her lies, testing which narratives would be most believable to different family members. Friday brought the inevitable confrontation. Brianna showed up at Mom's house unannounced, armed with her own folder of evidence. She had printed out real text messages between us, highlighting anything that could be interpreted as insensitive or demanding. She had created a timeline of family events that painted me as increasingly selfish and attention-seeking. But her evidence had a problem: it was all real. And when compared to her months of fabricated conversations, the contrast was stark. The real me, even on my worst days, was nothing like the monster she had been describing to everyone. Mom listened patiently as Brianna presented her case, then quietly asked the question that unraveled everything. Brianna, if Madison is really as terrible as you've been telling everyone, why did you need to create fake text messages to prove it? The silence stretched for almost a full minute. Why couldn't you just show people these real conversations if they supported your point? Brianna's face crumpled. For a moment, I thought she might actually apologize, might acknowledge the damage she had caused and take responsibility for her choices. Instead, she said the words that severed the final thread holding our family together. Because the truth wasn't enough. Because even when Madison was being selfish or thoughtless, it wasn't enough to make you see what I could see. So I helped you understand what she was really like. The casual admission that she had been helping Mom understand reality by creating false evidence was chilling. Brianna genuinely believed that her perception of me was more accurate than Mom's lived experience of our relationship. I need you to leave my house, Mom said quietly. And I need you to not contact me until you're ready to acknowledge that what you did was wrong and get help for whatever is driving this behavior. Brianna left, but not before delivering one final shot. When you realize what she's really like, don't expect me to come running back to fix everything. After she was gone, Mom and I sat in silence for a long time. Do you think she'll get help? I finally asked. I don't know. But I know that I can't enable this anymore. What she did wasn't just lying. It was psychological warfare. The retirement party had been meant to celebrate the end of Mom's career. Instead, it had marked the end of our family as we had known it. But sometimes things need to fall apart before they can be rebuilt on a foundation of truth. 6 months have passed since Mom's retirement party, and the landscape of our family has been completely redrawn. What started as a toxic sister's attempt to manipulate our family dynamics ended with something I had never expected: a stronger, more authentic relationship with my mother and a newfound appreciation for the family we choose rather than the family we inherit. Mom did exactly what she said she would do. She maintained the boundary with Brianna, refusing contact until Brianna acknowledged her behavior and sought professional help. For the first 3 months, Brianna tested this boundary repeatedly. Flowers on Mom's birthday with cards signed "Love, your daughter who actually cares." Text messages to family members claiming Mom was brainwashed and needed intervention. Even an attempt to show up at Mom's book club to accidentally encounter her. But Mom held firm, and something beautiful happened in the space that Brianna's manipulation had previously occupied. Without the constant undercurrent of manufactured drama, Mom and I discovered what our relationship could be when it was not being sabotaged from the inside. We started taking cooking classes together, something we had always talked about but never made time for. We planned a weekend trip to Charleston, just the two of us, to explore historic gardens and antique shops. These activities might sound mundane, but they represented something revolutionary: uninterrupted time together without crisis management or emotional triage. I had forgotten what it felt like to relax around my own family, Mom told me during our Charleston trip. We were sitting on a porch swing at our bed and breakfast, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. I was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, for someone to be upset about something. The family members who had witnessed Brianna's manipulation firsthand became our strongest allies. Aunt Linda, who had initially been sympathetic to Brianna's victim narrative, became one of the most vocal supporters of Mom's boundary setting. She admitted that she had been enabling Brianna's behavior for years by accepting her dramatic stories without question. I kept thinking I was being supportive, Aunt Linda explained during a family barbecue. But I was actually enabling her to avoid taking responsibility for her choices. Cousin Sarah organized a family group text that specifically excluded Brianna, something that would have seemed cruel before but now felt necessary for maintaining healthy communication. The difference in family dynamics was immediately apparent. Conversations stayed positive, plans were made and actually followed through on, and nobody was walking on eggshells trying to avoid triggering someone's crisis. But the most unexpected development was the people who emerged from the woodwork to share their own experiences with Brianna's manipulation. Mom's coworker Janet revealed that Brianna had been calling her periodically to check on Mom's well-being and had been fishing for information about Mom's retirement plans and financial situation. Our neighbor Mrs. Patterson mentioned that Brianna had asked her to keep an eye on Mom's house when I visited, claiming she was worried about my increasingly erratic behavior. The scope of Brianna's surveillance and manipulation network was staggering. She had essentially created an intelligence operation designed to monitor and control Mom's life and relationships. Month 4 brought the first genuine consequence of Brianna's choices. She was fired from her job for what her supervisor described as creating a hostile work environment through gossip and manipulation of team dynamics. Apparently, she had been using the same tactics at work that she had perfected on our family. She reached out to Mom immediately, claiming the firing was retaliation for her family problems and asking for financial support while she looked for new employment. Mom's response was a single text. "I am willing to have a conversation when you are ready to take responsibility for your choices and seek professional help. Until then, please respect my boundaries." Brianna's response was a 3-page letter delivered to Mom's workplace, detailing all the ways our family had failed her and explaining why her behavior was justified by her childhood experiences and mental health struggles. The letter was manipulative, self-pitying, and completely lacking in accountability. But it also revealed something important: Brianna was spiraling. Without her usual targets for manipulation and drama, she was struggling to maintain stability in other areas of her life. The retirement party confrontation had not been the end of her story, but it had been the beginning of real consequences. Month 5 brought unexpected closure. Brianna finally sought therapy, not because she wanted to repair our family relationships, but because her new therapist had been recommended by a court-ordered anger management program following an incident with her upstairs neighbor. The therapist, Dr. Rodriguez, called Mom with Brianna's permission to discuss family dynamics. The conversation was illuminating. "Your daughter has some significant issues with impulse control and reality testing," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "What she describes as helping people understand the truth about family members is actually a pattern of manipulation and fantasy that requires intensive treatment." Is she getting better? "She's making progress in acknowledging that her perception of events may not always align with objective reality. But rebuilding trust with family members who have been targets of her manipulation will require sustained effort and genuine accountability." Mom asked the question I had been wondering about for months: "Do you think she'll ever be able to have healthy family relationships?" "With significant work, yes. But it will require her to develop completely new patterns of interaction. The behaviors you've described are deeply ingrained." As I write this, Brianna has been in therapy for 2 months. She has sent one letter to Mom, which was actually written during a therapy session and reviewed by Dr. Rodriguez before being sent. The letter acknowledged that she had created false narratives about me and had violated Mom's trust through deceptive communication. It was not a full apology, and it did not address the emotional damage her manipulation had caused. But it was a beginning. Mom and I have decided that any potential reconciliation with Brianna will be gradual, supervised, and conditional on sustained behavioral change demonstrated over time. We will not be returning to the previous family dynamic where Brianna's emotions and crises dictated everyone else's experience. "I love your sister," Mom told me recently. "But I love myself and you too much to go back to that chaos." The retirement party that was supposed to be ruined by family drama has become a symbol of something else entirely: the moment our family chose truth over peace, boundaries over enabling, and authentic relationships over toxic loyalty. Looking back, I realize that Brianna's manipulation gave me an unexpected gift. It forced me to become more intentional about my relationships, more aware of unhealthy patterns, and more committed to honest communication. Fighting for my place in my family taught me that some relationships are worth fighting for, and others need to be restructured or released. Have you ever had to choose between keeping peace and telling the truth in your family? I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive behavior, even when that someone shares your DNA. Drop a comment below about your own experiences with family dynamics or justice being served. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life drama that proves truth really is stranger than fiction. Share this with someone who needs to hear that setting boundaries with family is not betrayal, it's self-respect. Thank you for taking this journey with me, and remember that choosing truth over convenience and healing over harmony sometimes means temporary pain leads to lasting peace. Sometimes family vengeance is really just justice finally catching up with the truth.